everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to my channel. I appreciate you for dropping by. I'm going to do a video today that I wasn't really planning on, but here we are. I happen to be in the area. I'm going to talk about an accident that I got into about 3.5 years ago now. And we're going to do the setup. I want to talk about the accident, and then I'm going to talk about outcomes and what was learned. First, the setup. It's Friday afternoon, September. Just got paid, bright and sunny out, and I'm on a Kawasaki Vulcan 900 Classic that I've owned for about a week. And when I started riding that bike, I noticed that the disc brakes were quite a bit more twitchier and stronger than the drum brakes I had on my previous bike. And so, as I'm getting out of work, I do a couple of swerves in the parking lot to kind of get a feel for it. And then I make my way up this road that you currently see me on now, doing about 60, I'd say. It's a 55-mile-an-hour road. And my mind is thinking about parking lot practice. I'm going to be going to a parking lot this weekend. I'm going to be working on brake control. I'm going to be really getting to know this bike that I'm riding. Thing is, we're coming up into a town here, and so I know that it's going to be a 45-mile-an-hour intersection, and so I back off the throttle. And right here, the intersection is up there, and there's a car up there. There isn't in this video, but there is there. And I'm watching all the way back here. I'm watching, and that car isn't moving at all. And I'm thinking to myself, she could have gone at least 2 or 3 times now. I'm going to pull over here so I can talk some more. And the person in that car never did leave the stop sign. That person never left that stop sign, that intersection, until I hit right out here. So there's the setup. I'm coming down this road, doing about 60, but I hit that 45-mile-an-hour sign there. I checked my speed somewhere in here, and I was doing 50. And just as I entered into the intersection here, this lady, and I'll tell you why I know it's a lady, she finally jumps out of the intersection and into the road there. And my response was sheer panic. I swerved and hit the brakes at the same time. And when I hit the brakes, I locked up the rear tire. And these are new. This was new rubber. That also plays a part into it. And so when I started sliding, and then I kind of started to hook. And when it hooked, it caught me into a high side, and and I don't even remember any of that. The last thing I remember is just seeing the lady pull out. And then I remember hearing my rear tire slide. And then I remember thinking, get off the brake. And that's the last thing I remember. So now the accident. I ended up hitting so hard from that. I'm good. Thank you. I ended up hitting so hard that from that high side, that when my head hit the pavement out there, it knocked the visor off my full face helmet off into where you see that north, where you see those road signs. They found the visor out in the ditch there. And me and the bike plowed, my head first leading the way, plowed about 20 feet down into that, down that blacktop. And when I came to, I remember I was staring into the sun. Everything was blurry. I was flat on my back out there in the road. And I just remember this lady screaming, sobbing, telling me she's sorry. And I just remember her brown hair, waving in front of my face. And then someone pulled her off. And I remember hearing sirens, someone telling me not to take off my helmet, which I shouldn't have, but I did anyway. And I'm just laying there. I can't move. I'm not even thinking about moving, actually. I'm just so out of it. And then I remember the ambulances picking me up. I remember trying to call my wife, not getting a hold of her, calling my son, getting a hold of him, and then him calling my wife. And I remember, they loaded me up in an ambulance and they took me back that way towards Wichita. And, yeah, I passed out again somewhere in there. And, yeah, woke up in ICU. Now, the funny thing is, and the thing is, I was wearing full gear at the time, obviously. And I don't know, that hash mark, I was wearing these chaps, and that's the hash mark part of it. There's more marks on the back side of my chaps around the belt line and stuff like that. My leather jacket, which isn't the one I'm wearing right now, it almost took the sleeve off of it from the stitching from the shoulder. The boots I was wearing, which were not as good as the ones I got now, kind of did the job. Honestly, they were okay. They were beginner level riding gear. All my stuff was beginner level. The Bell helmet with the PIP system, that was one of the best things. It actually kept me from completely losing my head. And I will tell you, if it had not been for a full face helmet, I would not have lived. I would not have lived. So yeah, come down this way, swerve, hit the brake at the same time, end up in a high side, slide down the road. Yeah, pretty crazy. So what were my injuries? Well, my left fractured a couple of bones in my left foot. My left ankle ended up, needing surgery to reattach a couple of ligaments. My left hip was so badly bruised I couldn't walk for 3 days. It was just a huge black and blue hematoma going down my leg and down my thigh and up my side, and the hip just felt like mush. Fractured a couple of ribs on the left side. Fractured my left shoulder blade on the left side. And then, of course, my helmet. So, yeah, I will never be without full riding gear, ever. That one accident convinced me that even if it's hot out, I can afford to sweat. Because I can only imagine how bad my recovery would have been if I had to do this with road rash, right? That would have been awful. That would have been absolutely terrible. So now, that's the setup, that's the accident. What did I learn from it? Well, I learned that parking lot practice is an important thing to get to know your bike. And I wished I would have, planned that out a little bit better. I learned that no matter what, you need to keep your head in the game. Now, I'm not saying my head wasn't in the game that day. I mean, I did, like I said, I saw her from a long way off. I counted literally how many times she could have crossed that intersection before I ever got to it. And it's just, I guess she was on her phone or whatever. And then, but I think the biggest thing that I learned is not to do everything at once, right? Like if I would have just accelerated through the intersection, I think with the swerve, I think I might have been fine. But I think trying to, my brain wanting everything to come to a stop, and so I hit the brake, I think that probably did me more harm than anything, because she never actually hit me, right? So then, the aftermath. Obviously, I was 3 days in ICU because my blood oxygen levels wouldn't get above 50% on their own, so they kept having to feed me oxygen. Like I said, I couldn't walk. I didn't even try while I was in the hospital. They wheelchaired me out, but when I got home, I was in bed for 3 days because I literally I just couldn't walk. My hip was so badly banged up. What else were the aftermaths? Yeah, lots of physical therapy. Now the legal actions, though. So she admitted fault. Witnesses said it wasn't my fault. Her insurance company said it wasn't my fault, that their client was to blame. So I wasn't eager to sue. I wasn't trying to come out ahead. I just wanted my medical bills to be paid for. And I tried dealing with her insurance company on my own. Huge mistake. Very naive on my part. Because my medical bills were north of $100,000. And her insurance was only good up to $50,000. And I'm like, well, that's fine. You guys still got to pay this. And they're like, we don't have to. I'm like, that's what I actually got mad at them. I'm like, my God, you're actually going to force me to sue you. So that's what I did. I went to a lawyer, and he says, what do you want me to do? I said, I want you to get every dime you can. I want you to squeeze as hard as you can to get everything out of them. Because I tried doing it a legit and ethical way, the first way, and I could see they're just going to try to screw me over. In hindsight, I now know that, no matter what happens, after emergency services are called, lawyer up right away. And any whoosies, ended up winning that case big time. The thing that really worked in my favor with all this, I mean, I suppose if you want to see anything working in my favor, is the fact that even though she herself on a personal level was underinsured for the type of accident that it was, I mean, she had literally the minimal amount of insurance you're legally allowed to have in the state. So what ended up making this a larger payday for me in compensation throughout the legal process was the fact that she was on the clock with her job when the accident happened. And so that allowed us to go after her employer's insurance for a much larger sum. Of course, all that got, bartered down to where it was a fraction of what my lawyer was actually going for. But it was still enough to cover my medical and you know, we were able to do some remodeling on the house and stuff like that. And I was able to buy my Vulcan S. So, but yeah, that was a mess. That was a messy day. So, yeah, at the end of the day, this is what I walk away with. Full gear, all the time, no compromises. Because you just never know. Even when you see it coming, even when you plan ahead, even when, you know, you've done everything that you can do as a rider, there's still that off chance that the one thing you can't cover for happens. By the time I got to the intersection, I was convinced that she just wasn't going to go because she hadn't gone. And then next thing I know, boom, there she is. So full gear all the time. Make sure that your insurance as a rider, yeah, get over on your side. Make sure that your insurance as a rider is the best that you can afford. Make sure you're over-insured to compensate for somebody else's lack of insurance. I go through Progressive now, and I've got literally almost everything maxed out as far as coverages go. Just to make sure that if that ever happens again, I'll be taken care of while the legal proceedings are going on. And then, of course, practice. Get on your bike, get to someplace quiet, practice your clutch control, practice your brake control, practice your swerves, just basic things like that. Basic things like that will take you a long way in keeping you safe. Listen to different coaches. I particularly enjoy Dan the fireman, watching his after analysis reviews and really soaking up that wisdom. All that kind of stuff will help you out, and helps me out every time I go out. Anyway, I think that's where I'm going to call it quits. You guys have a good day. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you later.